just this year in our first home game, seeing the middle school group have the white noise and having like a couple hundred, 200-300 middle school kids in the stands. The other end of the stands, we've got the black hole with our high school student section. We've got 38 or 39 cheerleaders. I don't know how many, Bill. 120 kids in the marching band. You know, all these kids playing football. We've got the youth football kids coming out into the field at halftime. And you just look around and you're like, man, this is so cool. This is what it's supposed to be.
Hey everybody, this is Rodney Valinga with the West Ottawa High School Athletic Program, and you're listening to the 29-1 podcast. 29 sports, one team. The show that brings you into the lives of student athletes, coaches, and other faces in the Panthers sports community, bringing you the stories you might otherwise never hear. Join myself and Athletic Director Bill Kennedy as we dive in with you to get to know each other a little bit better. A lifetime in athletics can offer a unique perspective on what's important and what truly matters.
Today on the 29-1 podcast, we are joined by West Ottawa Superintendent Tim Bearden. Tim walks us through a life in sports from his playing days to coaching and eventually becoming a sports dad.
This thoughtful conversation gives great insight on the role of athletics in high school and how purposeful decisions by a district can change lives through sport.
West Ottawa Superintendent Tim Bearden up next on the 29-1 podcast. Let's get it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the 29-1 podcast. I'm Rodney Valinga, and I'm here with Panthers Athletic Director Bill Kennedy. Today's guest is a longtime athlete who's been around sports his entire life. He was a varsity athlete in multiple sports in high school, became a coach at both the high school and college level later on. He was an athletic director for some time, then eventually threw on the zebra stripes and became a referee, which he continues to do to this day. You can find him on both the tennis and pickleball courts now, where like the rest of us, he will struggle with hitting that tennis shot in pickleball and that pickleball shot in tennis. It just doesn't work. He now leads the district as West Ottawa Superintendent, a position he has held for over 4 years, and it's our pleasure to ask, who is it?
Tim Bearden.
Tim, thanks so much for taking some time and stopping in. I know you're a busy man in all the doings here at West Ottawa, so appreciate the time.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, we're going to really kind of talk about the roles of athletics and education, community, student development. And Tim, I want to start off with a very important question. What did you have for breakfast?
Oh, man, I had a protein shake pretty much every day. That's my go-to.
That's one of your questions you asked a lot, being a teacher and all that, trying to connect with students, right? You would purposely go out of your way to ask them a question about their day.
Yeah, where'd you get that research?
Hey, I'm pretty good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how it got started, but as a teacher, just doing roll call, I would ask every kid some kind of silly question to start the day. And then one kid told me one time that I was the only adult who had talked to him that day. And then that reinforced it to me. I'm like, oh, I got to keep doing this. And I've had kids come back years later and say, man, that was so funny. That was so great. And we would get into funny. It would only take 5 or 6 minutes out of every class period, but it was worth it. We made great connections with kids and it was fun.
Yeah, those little nuggets are how you build relationships in the classroom. I mean, I can go back as you're telling that story about asking silly questions. I remember doing roll the first time, and I would let kids decide what they wanted to be called in my class. And one kid wanted to be called Smasher Joe. So I called him Smasher Joe for the entire semester. You know, you're just meeting them where they're at.
I had a really quiet kid in class once, and the kids all got him. Remember that song, Shiny Happy People from R.E.M.?
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't remember what I asked him. I said, how are you doing today? And he's like, I'm a shiny, happy person. And he was one of those kids that never said a word, and everybody just cracked up. And it was like, for the rest of the semester, he was a shiny, happy person. So.
You are also known for your dad jokes, bad jokes. You want to hit us with a few?
Well, I'll tell you, the one I told at graduation last year is my favorite dad joke of all time is, how do you track Will Smith in the snow? Just follow the Fresh Prince.
See? So good.
So there's a dad joke. Tim does an awesome thing. Every Friday, we get something called Friday Notes. It gets sent out, and it always closes with Starbucks Star of the Week, which we get to recognize somebody in the district that's done an outstanding job and has been nominated. But then the dad joke at the end, I'm always scrolling to the bottom, like, okay, I got to see what the dad joke is.
You know, the
this
funny
week.
thing is, the first time I did Friday notes, I put a dad joke in. I send a dad joke to my kids all the time when they were away at school or something. And I put a dad joke in, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. I didn't mean for it to be like a weekly feature. And so the next week I didn't have a dad joke, and I got a bunch of emails from people saying, "Hey, where's the dad joke?" So I'm like, okay. And now I have a dad joke. And I get dad joke books for Christmas. I get all this stuff. And so now I became the dad joke guy. It wasn't really that big a thing before, but
It is now.
It is now.
it is.
We
So
hit
that's
up with
good.
you again. Yeah. Well, you're superintendent here at West Ottawa High School when, a lot of time of decisions with resources and facilities and program decisions are being made. And understanding what that does for developing student athletes and young people from your perspective is quite invaluable. A perspective for you that began as an athlete in high school, a young kid in high school. You played some different sports in high school. What were they, Tim?
Yeah, so it's interesting. From middle school on, middle school I played football, basketball, baseball, like most kids my age did. We started playing that way. When I got to high school, in fact, this helps sort of shape how I view things. That was a time when school districts had to pass millages in order to support programs. So for my freshman and sophomore year of high school, our school district failed to pass millages that would support athletics. So we had no sub-varsity athletic teams. So it really kind of shaped my high school experience a little bit. So I ended up playing golf and track as a high school athlete. My best sports in high school were actually probably tennis and volleyball, two sports that we didn't have and I didn't have an opportunity to play and we didn't have the facilities for. So I think, when we're here at West Ottawa, one of the cool things about our programming is we really do have something for everybody. I don't think there's anything that someone's involved in that we don't have an outlet that would serve, whether it's facility or program. And, that's a really cool thing. But for me, high school golf might have been the greatest thing in the world, where every day you just go out and play golf with your buddies. And it was a lot of fun. But my family was not athletic family. So for me playing sports, even as a young kid, my dad was never the guy that coached our team or anything. I was always jealous of the kids whose dad carried around the equipment bag. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to go home with all the catcher stuff, So as my kids grew up, I really wanted to do that and coached all my kids all through their, youth athletics and stuff. But so my experiences did sort of shape how I view things and how I have viewed them.
What high school did you go to, Tim?
Swartz Creek High School. It's
Okay.
in the Flint area, just between Flint and Lansing.
Yeah, so that's where Coach Terry Cutter, I think,
Yeah,
had
he
spent
was
some time there.
He was a substitute teacher there when I was in school. I talked to him about it. He and his brother both were substitute teachers there back years ago. That's how old he is, because I'm pretty old, and he was teaching there.
He's
when I was a
still out. He's
student.
still out assisting Reed Murphy now with the golf
Yeah.
program and
Yeah.
still getting after it. So
Do you have a favorite memory from your own high school days about playing sports? Anything that stands out?
I have some good memories from competition and stuff, but I think my favorite memories, honestly, were practices. And the time before and after practice. I think, Rodney, you and I were talking the other day, and I said one of the things I was jealous of with my own kids was being part of a team. And I'm like, man, just take that all in and really appreciate all that, because as you get older, it's harder to have that feeling. And I just love that feeling of hanging out with your buddies after practice, after an event, after a thing, being in the locker room, being around a team, So we've endeavored to try to create as much of a team atmosphere as we can, but it's still not the same. It's the kind of thing that really, once you get past high school and college, most people won't get to experience something like that again in their lifetime. So it's a really cool feature, I think.
yeah, that's something I feel like had kind of led me in something that I guess I take into my own professional work now, is that I feel like I am still somewhat part of that team atmosphere, right? When I'm on the sidelines or down on the field, even though I'm not competing or coaching, I'm still around it and I'm supporting them in some way.
Yeah, that's really for a lot of us. It's, it's why we're sitting in this room today. It's people that coach, athletic trainers, people that administrate sports, people that work in concessions. We got the chain gangs on a Friday night. We're all really still searching for that or trying to have it part of our lives.
Yeah.
When you think about the high school experience of sports, how does that fit into the mission of West Ottawa?
Well, I really do believe in the idea of educational athletics, that athletics as a platform when they're in school settings teach a lot of valuable lessons, in some ways lessons that are more memorable and will stick with kids longer than lessons they learned in the classroom. I don't remember really anything from Algebra 2, but I can remember a lot of competitive moments in my lifetime, both successes and failures. And I think that's true for kids everywhere, that universally that's so. the educational experience of athletics teaches kids a lot of different kind of life lessons that they don't necessarily learn in classroom settings, and they learn in really powerful ways. I used to say all the time, like, if we could put our varsity physics team out on a Friday night in front of 3,000 people against Hudsonville's varsity physics team, it would really ramp up the urgency of learning physics. When your examination, your assessment, your final thing is in front of a crowd, in front of a bunch of people, and you're doing it with people you've worked hard with and committed to a common cause with over time, that's a really special thing. It's really unique.
Bill, what particular lessons did you have anything growing up where you kind of had a moment where athletics taught you something special that's you've hung on to most of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the value of working really hard and taking pride in everything that you do. I was never, I never scored a touchdown. I played 9 years of football.
No scoop and score?
No scoop and score. I had a couple of picks, a couple of fumble recoveries, but never got to the end zone. But I took so much pride in, the macho me would say, I took so much pride in stealing another person's will because of where I played. I played along the line, and it was a physical position. Those are some of those like memories. But like Tim said, I don't even remember a whole lot of college football games. I remember all of the times with my 9 roommates who were also football players after games back in our dorm as we're recapping the game, and we're all exhausted and just whipped. And those are the things that stand out. And I'm still on a text thread with all those guys, and we're just constantly badgering each other with different things. So
that's great.
Super fun. What's maybe one misconception, Tim, that the public might have about the role of athletics in education? Anything that you see, that you hear, and you're like, nah, that's not really what we're trying to do?
Well, I think one big misconception is this idea that coaches have some different kind of motivations or different interests than teachers. And really at their core, teaching and coaching are the same thing. If you're good at one, you're good at the other. And I've rarely seen somebody who was good at one of those things and wasn't good at the other if they were really committed to it. And I think people sometimes don't see that or understand that. There's the stereotypical coach from a sitcom show that's got the gray sweatshirt that says coach, and he's carrying a whistle, and he doesn't seem to care about anything else. My experience coaching myself and my experience being around coaches is that coaches care deeply about their players on a lot of different levels, really care about them, and are committed to their craft. That good coaching is good teaching, that you build things, that you start with the end in mind and you work backwards. Those are all tenets of good curriculum and good classroom instruction. Same thing is true with coaching. People think coaches show up with a whistle and they just start practice. Coaches spend a lot of time planning what their practice is going to look like. As a coach, I used to plan my practices in 10-minute blocks. I would start with the end, say, hey, here's what I really want us to achieve by the end of practice today. Okay, how do we get there? And start with things that build one on top of each other. It wasn't just throwing out a ball and hoping that we would figure it out. And I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of work that coaches put in before and after practices and competitions to be prepared and to give their kids the best possible experience.
Yeah, I have a joke with my friend where it's like, hey, if you're in, you're in. And you'll know. And coaches, they're in.
Oh, they're all in.
You coached a lot yourself, right? You're an athlete in high school, but your love of sports continues. You're a teacher, and then you coach in both high school and college. Maybe share with us the sports you coached, Tim.
Yeah, I coached women's volleyball at the high school level. I was fortunate to win a state championship at Atherton as a coach there. I coached at Mott Community College for 7 years as the head coach there, and was the head coach at Wayne State University for 4 years in GLIAC and NCAA Division II. And the whole time I was a head women's college volleyball coach, I was also a full-time teacher. And at the time, I think there were maybe 2 part-time coaches in the GLIAC. So I had a day job, and then I was coaching at the collegiate level. And had a great experience. It was awesome. I really loved it. Have some great connections with players and former players who I, to this day, I'm still really good friends with. But coached that. At various times, I've coached everything. Coached baseball, basketball, track. Coached track for years at the high school level. Really enjoyed that. Each thing is unique and has its own kind of nuances. But track and individual sports are pretty cool because there's not a lot of subjectivity to it. You're either fast or you're not. You jump high or you don't. It's not a coach's decision who's the fastest, and that takes a lot of things out of it. It also allows kids to really see their growth incrementally or in big steps. They can track their personal bests and I love that coaches celebrate those things as much as they celebrate wins in an event. You know, if a kid PRs, if you're out watching our cross country or track kids, you see some kid PR and finish 12th and everybody's high-fiving that kid and going crazy because they had a personal best. And that's one of the really cool things about athletics, that, you know, you can celebrate those improvements and see them.
Yeah, we have the PR bell out at the track. So PR happens in a track meet, kid gets to go over and ring it. Frank's got the PR bell in the weight room now. So I'm down in my office and I hear the bell going, I'm like, all right, somebody just achieved something they haven't done before, which is pretty neat.
How did you balance? Jay Billis came out with a thing on Instagram just a few days ago where he talked about his different view on high school sports now. And what he says is, for a lot of these athletes, this is it. And coaches have a responsibility to make that a good experience for those athletes during that time. For you as a coach, Tim, how did you balance creating a good experience with also being competitive and, you know, making hard calls about playing time and all that with young kids?
You know, we used to have this conversation with a friend of mine, Rory Matter, who is a great coach in the Flint area. I mean, we would talk about, you know, sometimes taking a group of athletes without a lot of talent and moving them from being not very successful to being moderately successful was a way better and more rewarding coaching experience than taking a group of kids that was already pretty skilled and moving them maybe incrementally to a slightly higher level. And we used to talk about where it was most valuable to put our best coaches. Like, would we put our best coaches at the freshman or JV level? Sometimes I think that's true, you know, and I think good coaches don't really care so much where they coach or what level they coach. I mean, people who are competitive want to compete at the highest levels, but they want to work with kids, you know, and they want to work with people. And that's how you balance it. Like, if you're really in it for the right reasons, it doesn't matter so much where you coach. You can have a great time. I was joking with Pat and said, hey, you want to coach, you know, before we came in, Panther Pathways flag football? He said, that would be awesome, because Pat loves to coach, and he loves kids, and he loves people, and he loves to see them improve. And it really doesn't matter what level that happens.
Did you see personally, you started out, how old were you first started coaching?
So I was a head women's volleyball coach at age 22.
Wow.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how old were you when you stopped coaching?
Well, I never really stopped coaching. I coached my kids all the way through, but my last year at Wayne State was 1998. That was my last season in the fall of 98. And so that was the last time I formally coached, but I coached my kids through AAU, through youth sports, through Little League, you know, and never really stopped.
For you, as everyone has people, right? Bill Kennedy is different today than he was a year and a half ago. For coaches, how did you see yourself change over time from being that 22-year-old young man to 1998, older, experience? When you stopped officially coaching, like, how did you change over time? And then how did you see the profession maybe when you stopped?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some things are hugely different. I mean, being a dad really changed everything for me. It changed a lot of my perspective. And I look back at some of the things I said and did as a young coach. I'm embarrassed by them now. I'm like, gosh, I can't believe that I thought that was that important, or I was that angry about something that really wasn't that big a deal. And I think that perspective of having my own kids made a huge difference for me. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, is keeping the main thing. And we get distracted by all these little things that are ancillary that aren't really important. I'll give you an example. This is funny. The first call on a snow day, basically after I decide on a snow day, is usually Bill asking me what time coaches can practice. And when I was coaching and if we had a snow day, I was desperate to make sure we didn't miss practice time, right? Now, in my advanced age and with different perspective, I look at it and say, is really that one practice going to make that much difference? If it is going to make that much difference, we probably didn't do a great job in the days leading up to it. You know, kids can enjoy their snow day. And so I've mellowed a lot in that sense. I was overly intense when I was young as a coach. And now I think I look at things way differently and with a maybe broader vision about what's really important. I also think the fun factor is way more important than I probably used to think it was. That, you know, if it's not a fun experience for kids, then we screwed up. We did something wrong. Yeah, sports should be fun.
And you can do all the hard work and all the physical challenges, and that can be fun.
I used to tell my teams all the time, like, there's all different kinds of fun in sports. Like, you can have fun playing volleyball at your family picnic, family reunion, but it's not going to be the same kind of fun that you're going to get when you've worked super hard with your teammates committed to a common goal, and you play your absolute best against the best team that you'll play. That's the ultimate fun in my mind, in athletics. So there's all different kinds of fun, and some kids aren't built for one or the other, but still it's the job of the coach, I think, to make it a positive experience, to figure out how to find each athlete where they are.
Speaking of fun, you have 4 kids that went on to play both high school and collegiate sports.
Yep.
So you never stopped coaching. Can you share with us, because there's a lot of success that your kids had. What was it like for you just to be a parent in sports? A lot of parents will listen to this podcast. What was it like just for you to have those kids play those sports, have that success, and kind of enjoy that experience?
It was super awesome, like joy of our lives, I think. This is the first fall in many years. My wife and I said we are not following one of our kids to a sporting event. My daughter graduated my youngest graduated from Northern last year, played soccer there, Northern Michigan. And so we don't have a team to follow this fall. So it feels a little bit empty. It's kind of weird because we've done nothing but that. Our social life was following our kids and hanging out with the parents of their friends and teammates. And so I do miss that. I miss it a lot. But I think as a parent, one of the things that I really had to learn was to bite my tongue, especially in the car ride home or in the time afterwards. I was used to watching games as a coach, and I always thought I had lots of things that I could say to my kids that would help. And I think sometimes I did. But the things I think I was able to help them with, and my wife, who was also a college athlete, was able to help them with, were really more around kind of mental toughness, emotional resiliency. I think we were able to help our kids in those respects more than in terms of technical things about how they actually played a game. I think the other thing for me is, as my kids were playing sports in their high school experience, I was their high school principal at the school where they played athletics. And I really had to distance myself. I love standing down on the sidelines and watch a game. But when my son played football, I never once stepped foot on the sidelines. I sat in the stands with a group of parents right in the middle of everybody and just was a parent. And I think my kids always appreciated that. I always tried to keep that separation as much as I could. And it's really hard to do that.
I think it's super hard. I mean, I just remember with my kids playing sports, being in the car driving home, and you start instructing them on every little thing when you're younger. With my older kids, I stopped. But I think a lot of us kind of had that same experience where, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this, especially when your kids are playing the sports you played.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's hilarious is, I don't know if you've had this experience with your own kids, but after a game, the coach will stand and talk to them for 20 minutes or 30 minutes after the game. And then we'll get in the car like, well, what did coach say? I'm like, nothing. They talked to you for 30 minutes and said nothing. And the lesson was my kids just didn't want to rehash it again. Later on, maybe later in the day or the next day, they'd say, oh, yeah, coach said so-and-so and so. But it just wasn't the right time. And I think that's an important lesson for us.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to coach my son, Dakota, and coaching him in football, I definitely had to bite my tongue in a lot of car rides, but I was reading a lot of like Tony Dungy stuff back then, where it's like, 3 positives for every negative. Mm-hmm. It was always his philosophy because
Was that some work?
It was, because I was so hyper competitive. I was coaching high school football at the time. I had been exposed to the game for so long. And I mean, ultimately too, I was a reflection of the way that my dad talked to me on car rides home. There was always a critique, but that's just the way it was.
Yeah, it's a tough thing as a parent, I think, just to figure out what you're supposed to do in that moment.
Be supportive and listen would be what I would say.
And for me, all my kids were way better athletes than I ever hoped I could be. So they always had something on me.
And you got to experience really the pinnacle of being athletic parent with your daughter, Kennedy. Can you tell us her story?
Yeah, Kennedy had played soccer at Grand Valley State University, which is a fantastic program. And we had an awesome experience there. She had an awesome experience, and we did as parents. And twice they won the national championship while she was there. And so her freshman year, she assisted on the national championship winning goal in overtime. And then her junior year, she actually scored the first goal of the game, and then she scored the golden goal, the goal in double overtime to win the national championship. And my wife and I would still say one of the greatest days of our lives.
I can only imagine the sense of pride that you would have
Well, it's not
You
just pride. I mean, although it's a big deal, but seeing your kid achieve something that they've worked, so hard to get to, and finally have the ultimate prize at the end, which just doesn't happen very much, right? It was really special. I said my youngest daughter won a state championship in high school, and it was the same kind of feeling, But the national championship, that was pretty cool. My son played Division I football, and he still says Kennedy gets the nod as the top athlete because of those accomplishments,
Yeah, I mean, Rodney, you had a little bit of taste of that last year. We win the district basketball championship. You're watching your son out there, and I remember seeing you on the court, and just you were talking to me about like, oh my gosh, this really happened.
Yeah, it was. As a dad, I have 4 kids, 3 daughters and 1 son. So this is my boy. This is the little guy that I've played basketball with in the basement, in the driveway, doing all that stuff. And all you're wishing for is that they can have a moment. And they got one. And it was probably the most fulfilling for me as a parent as ever could be. There's a picture. There's so many great content creators nowadays. There was a great content creator there at night that took a ton of photos of our team, but he has a picture of Hudson holding the district trophy, and there's guys around him with hands on their shoulder. They're half laughing, half smiling. I got that picture up in my office now. It's framed. It'll be there forever. But it's a nice moment as a parent. You don't always get that. I had an older daughter that lost her high school career to a knee injury. Yeah. And that's the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that's a good point. There's highs and lows and everything. My son lost a state championship game in football, had an undefeated football season his senior year, and lost 10-7 in the state championship game. And he was a defensive end. I think they gave up 48 yards of offense the whole game and still lost. And that was the lowest of the low it wasn't because he got to this pinnacle game, but that was such a huge disappointment. I think an important piece is it doesn't matter whether it's athletics or it's anything else with us as parents. My son, when he was a little kid, he played Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Just on a whim, he tried out for this play through school, and he gets the lead role, and we're like, "Oh crap, we don't know
the
anything.
Lead role.
We don't know anything about this, about
Not
acting,
a Wumpa
what
Wumpa.
this thing." And they played at the Macomb Center, which is seats 1,000 people, and their audiences were mostly like elementary kids. They would bus in like these whole thing, but they'd have like 1,000 people in the audience, and that was super cool. It doesn't matter what it is. See your kid get to perform and participate in and have fun and do something that's really rewarding to them is super special.
Yeah. And when it doesn't go your way, it's still okay.
Absolutely. It's one of those lessons though, right? Like you pour work into something and you're just trying to get to whatever it is, the top level that I could push myself towards. That's what I'm always trying to work towards that. Right. Like that was my mentality in going to Robert Morris is I had D2 and D3 offers, but I was like, I need to see if I can push myself. I see a kid, and this is, just something that popped into my brain, but the kid Trinidad Chambliss, who's starting at quarterback at Ole Miss right now. I coached him at Forest Hills Northern. He went to Ferris because that's where his offer was. But after the season they had last year, he wanted to see where he could get and see if he could compete in that level.
That's exciting.
Man alive, is he competing at that level right now?
You know what? That being said, as somebody who coached at community college in Division II, a lot of times I saw kids and parents get really wrapped up in the idea of, can I play Division I? And the reality was a lot of times the mid-level Division I programs couldn't have won our conference, in Division II. And the bigger reality is it really doesn't matter. It's if you're competing, you're having fun, you're getting an opportunity to do the thing that you love to do, you're going to have a great experience. And I think there's way too much of that kind of concern. I love the idea of competing at the highest level that you can reach, but I also think people get really wrapped up into that.
For sure.
This is a great place for facilities, for programs. You're here at an incredible time with the football, lacrosse, soccer stadium complex that was finished just a few years ago. We have the pool coming into play. Tim, if you go back to when you were a young high school kid, my high school had 98 students. Guess what we didn't have? A lot. But this day and age now, there's so much available. There's 3 old guys in this room right now. We know what it was like in the 80s, 90s for you. You're still in your 40s, Bill.
That's right.
But isn't it something, the world that we're in with sports, Tim?
It's amazing, really. Our facilities are absolutely incredible, and they're gonna reach an even new level with the construction of the pool and the community center. But they're really, really special. I do worry a little bit that there's this sort of arms race around facilities. I think the most important thing is, do we offer the opportunities that we want to offer? And do our facilities create a situation that will allow kids to do the things they want to do and have the space to do them and have the time to do them? And if we've accomplished that, then I think that's what we're looking for. I also think it's important that kids have things they can be proud of. And I think they feel better, they treat things better when they feel proud of it. But the reality is, like to your point, Rodney, like when I was in high school, I never thought our facilities weren't great. They were fine, you know. They're nothing compared to the facilities that we have now. As long as I was able to do the stuff that I wanted to do and I had opportunity and access to it, then I felt good. And I think that's true of our kids now.
Yeah, and we have a lot of other things that are that make us unique to West Ottawa. Things like the Panther Fund and Panther Pathways. Can you share a little bit about kind of what those programs have meant? I mean, you've really overseen the start and Panther Pathways.
Panther Pathways is one of the things I'm most proud of in my career of seeing a school district do. So we, when we started talking about it, we were looking at the student and athletes who made up our varsity teams. We said, at the time, the statistic was something like 67% of the kids making up our varsity teams came from 3 elementary schools in our district. And we weren't getting a lot of participants as they got older from kids from different schools and within the district. We said, man, we've got to do something about this, because for a lot of these kids, the barrier is they don't have access to a program that will lead to them being a varsity athlete someday, or they don't have exposure to a program that will lead to them being in the play or playing an instrument or being a computer programmer or whatever, that little extra that maybe some people have. And so we created a program, and it started with funding that we got through COVID dollars, through ESSER funding. And we created this program initially for 4th and 5th graders that would allow them to have competition with their friends at other schools. But the big thing that we did, and I think to this day is the most important piece, is we found a way to provide transportation to those kids, and that made it accessible to everybody. Without transportation, then there were a lot of kids that weren't going to be able to participate. It was such a valuable thing. We had elementary schools where we'd have a basketball game, a 4th or 5th grade girls basketball game, and we had families who just didn't, as a common rule, come to school events, fill the gym. I mean, I remember being at Pine Creek when there wasn't an empty seat anywhere in the gym for a basketball game when Pine Creek was playing Woodside. And I'm like, this is exactly what we were hoping for. We've got parents involved. We've got kids involved in a productive, fun, happy way. And these kids are getting an experience that exposed them to something, and they can find if maybe they have a passion for it, whatever it is. So we offered programs in computer programming and STEM stuff. We have Minecraft where kids could come in and play that game. We have athletics, obviously. And when our ESSER dollars ran out, we said, this is an important enough program. We're going to continue funding it through our general fund. And we've been able to do that. And we said we're going to prioritize it because literally thousands of kids are going to be able to participate in this program over the years.
I'm just so thankful as a parent. I'm not an administrator here. You guys both are. But your ability to pay attention to detail and finding a particular variable that flips it. Hey, what's the one variable here that's preventing this from happening? To dive in and find it and switch it. It's fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've always said, people will ask, what's West Ottawa like? And there are a lot of school districts that talk the talk. West Ottawa walks the walk. Like, we're going to identify an issue, a problem, and we're going to get a bunch of smart people in a room together and figure out a way to work around it.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing.
And we're super fortunate that we have people here who are all in for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Bill is a great example in the athletic department and the athletic office, but throughout the entire district, people are here for kids and at every level. And not just our teaching staff and our administrative staff, but our support staff of people who work at the ticket booth, the people who clean our buildings, who work on the building and grounds. They take a lot of pride in it. They're in it for kids. And I don't know that I've ever encountered anybody at West Ottawa who wasn't positive and, wasn't excited about what they were doing for young people. people ask me all the time what it's like to move to this district. And I said, it's like this big school that has a small school feel. You feel like you know everybody, like it's a small town, it's a small city, it's a small school, but it's really not. It's this big environment with a lot of different people.
We talked the other day on the phone and we laughed because you're turning 60, or you are 60.
Yeah.
I already am. But you get a lot of perspective, right? When we get these older ages. You just mentioned one, but I was going to ask you, have you had any moments in the last few years at West Ottawa where an athletic moment came and you thought, yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like? You just mentioned Pine Creek, that game there, but what other?
I remember the first home game we had in the stadium. Mr. Telgeski's son, Cole, threw a touchdown pass in the end zone. We won that game in our first home game in the stadium, and the excitement of everybody. But I just happened to be down on the field and filming that play, and I sent it to Todd. Said, hey, I just got this video of Cole. And I just know how much that would have felt to me as a parent and what that moment was like for that kid. And just think, man, the pageantry of a game at West Ottawa with the band, with the cheerleaders, with the crowd, with that full stadium. It's like, this is high school athletics. It's like a slice of Americana. This is like a night that kids will never forget. It was awesome. It's just this year in our first home game, seeing the middle school group have the white noise and having like a couple hundred, 200-300 middle school kids in the stands. The other end of the stands, we've got the black hole with our high school student section. We've got 38 or 39 cheerleaders. I don't know how many, Bill. 120 kids in the marching band. All these kids playing football. We've got the youth football kids coming out onto the field at halftime. And you just look around and you're like, man, this is so cool. This is what it's supposed to be. All these people belong to something bigger than us, and it's all super fun. They all have their own role in it, but they're all part of this really amazing event, this really cool thing. And I think that's super special.
Yeah, I was at the gym this morning, and a couple of folks from Power Strength are coming over because they train some of our athletes. They train some of the Grand Haven athletes. And I asked Caleb, I said, you've never been to West Ottawa Stadium for a football game yet, have you? And he goes, no. I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to you next week and I'll get your perspective, because I think we just do it. It's different than anywhere else you go.
Yeah, my kids came to the last, 3 of my 4 kids were able to come to the last game, and we went all the way up top in the stadium so they could see what it looked like. And they all brought their significant others who were also athletes at different levels, and they were just blown away. They're like, I've never seen anything like this. And I was like, yeah, West Ottawa does it right.
Yeah, and the band is just killing it at halftime lately, too.
Chris Shinoviak and what he's done with the marching band. And they were already great under Mike Hammond.
Correct.
Mike was a phenomenal band leader, but Chris has brought a whole new dimension, and they're super exciting, and it's really cool.
With the administrative position that you're in, you have a very full plate. But one thing that you still do, because this lifelong commitment to athletics is still there, you referee still.
Yeah.
When did you start putting on the zebra stripes and getting involved in that?
Well, I've refereed for years. I actually started as the first job I ever had as a young kid. I'm 13, maybe or 14 years old. I started umpiring in the community ed baseball in my neighborhood. So I started doing it then, and we used to get paid cash in a little envelope. I don't know, remember $6 or $7 a game for umpiring. But I did high school sports for years. I did boys and girls basketball, volleyball, baseball, and softball. So I did those for a long time. Really enjoyed doing basketball. Now my knees are kind of shot, so I don't know that I would. My wife says I can't run enough to do basketball anymore, but I still am doing college volleyball, something I wanted to go back to when I was done coaching and my kids were done playing. So that's allowed me to stay around college athletics. So, in fact, I'm going to be out at Southwestern Michigan College this weekend, reffing community college tournament out there. I was at Bethel University in Indiana on Saturday, reffing the women's volleyball match and just having a great time, and being around athletes and kids and stuff just makes me happy.
What would a lifetime of not being athletics look like for you? Like, how big a part of athletics is in your life, and what does it mean to you?
I mean, it's interwoven, and I think in our family and me and who I am, and I just always had a passion for it. It's like I said, growing up, my parents were not particularly, into athletics. It just, for whatever reason, I became super interested in it, not just as a participant, but as a fan, somebody who reads about it. I just love the kind of experience that comes to it. If it wasn't athletics, it'd be something else, I guess. My brother's a professional musician, and he went a whole different way, and he's passionate about that. So it's it's just for me, it's who I am. I love sports. Like last night, I live and died with the Lions. The game was a blast. That we came out on top.
He's
we had to bring up the Lions.
Oh, geez, I forgot who they played. Shoot. Yeah, that was Baltimore, wasn't it? Sorry, Bill. That's probably.
I was surprised he walked in with a smile on his face today after I knew that they lost last night. But.
Yeah, Rodney knows if the Ravens lose on Sunday, he just leaves me alone on Sunday afternoon.
You know what I love in sports? I love the little stories within the story. You know, that there's always all these different little dramas that play out in an athletic contest. And
when the Ravens lose, it's drama. Trust me.
No, it totally is. You know, that's like playoff baseball coming up. All the little mini stories within the story, you know, the one-on-one, a batter against a pitcher, and the mind games and the things that happen. And all those things are super compelling to me. And I get that they're not for everybody, but super fun. But that being said, I have lots of interests, you know, and I love being at all of our events. I love going to our band concerts. I love seeing our marching band. I told my kids at the game last week, we were like, yeah, come for the game, but the highlight's going to be the marching band at halftime because they have never seen a marching band like ours, you know, and at the high school level. So all those things are super joyful to me.
Yeah, and this is a sports podcast, so we're putting athletics, but I mean, it's true. There's so many other things that can be interwoven in your life that give you the same thing. It's just so important to have something to do. And still today, you're still on the pickleball court in tennis.
I like playing pickleball. I play some tennis still play volleyball now and then.
You still play volleyball?
I can't really jump anymore, but I still pepper and goof around and play with. My son's an open level beach player in Chicago, so I love going to watch him play and doing stuff with him. But
he's got to be a beast at the net.
He's a pretty good athlete, yeah. So he didn't pick up really playing competitive volleyball till in the last few years, but he's learned quickly. He's a good athlete. So yeah, that stuff's fun. I love doing stuff to be active. I paddleboard. We're outside doing stuff all the time.
Let's finish up with two kind of big questions. One, how do you see the future of high school athletics changing maybe during the next 5 years, about 5 to 10? I know the last 5 years here, there's been massive changes. What do you guys see maybe the next 5 to 10?
Man, I think at some point NIL is going to come into the equation. I really do. And that's just, Tim was there yesterday as we were over hearing from Mark Ewell and the MHSAA. It's inevitable. I don't know that it looks the same as it does at the collegiate level, but I don't see us going another 5 to 10 years and that not being a reality at the high school.
So this will be an unpopular opinion maybe, but I hate NIL. I hate
I'm right there with you.
I hate what it's done to college athletics, and I will resist it happening at the high school level. I hate where we are in college athletics right now. I think, you know, it's one of those weird things. Like there was a problem, and instead of correcting it incrementally, we swung the pendulum completely 180 degrees the other direction and created a whole new problem or a new set of problems. So I hope that doesn't happen in high school. One of the things I think that's going to be interesting in the next 5 to 10 years in high school athletics is participation and whether or not we're able to keep kids into high school sports with the proliferation of youth sports in other areas. We're already seeing battles fighting, you know, academy programs in soccer and, you know, outside programs in other sports. Whether we can hold on to kids in the high school experience, I think is going to be really an interesting story. I hope that we can, because I think it's an experience that's so unique. You know, my kids played high-level soccer, but you go play a high-level ECNL or academy game, and there's maybe 25 or 30 parents there watching. Instead of going and playing in front of several hundred of your friends, it's a completely different experience. And so my daughters that played high-level soccer, they loved playing high school soccer because they got to play in front of their friends and with their friends that they went to school with every day, and that was a different experience. I hope that we're able to hang on to that, you know, in the face of this proliferation of a lot of other sports. I hope that we're able to hold on to the multi-sport athlete. I really believe in it. I think it makes kids better and more well-rounded. We had a great speaker at a previous school. Kate Markgraf played on our Olympic soccer team. She went to Notre Dame, and she said when she was in high school, she went to a high school that required her to play 2 sports. It was required. You had to be 2 sports. So she played soccer, but then she's like, in her words, she thought it was asinine that she had to play another sport. She played volleyball. And she said the ironic thing is that now as an adult, she still plays in a women's volleyball league and doesn't ever play soccer anymore because she got burned out on it. And that experience from being required to play another sport actually gave her a lifelong avocation, you know? I hope that we're able to hang on to that. So I hope we're able to hang on to high school participation and even grow it. And I hope we're able to hang on to the multi-sport athlete.
Yeah, and I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, our participation has gone up considerably. And you look at our soccer program, we're one of 6 schools in West Michigan that offer 3 levels of soccer at the boys level and the girls in the spring. And we have 20 plus kids at each of those levels. So there's opportunities here, I think, that may not exist in other places just because we're able to get that participation number up.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to, maybe a message you'd like to share with parents, students, athletes? Just a final thought on maybe athletics at our school.
I think they're super fortunate to have the opportunities they have here, to have an athletic director like Bill, who's always looking for ways to get more kids involved. I think one of the cool things that Bill's done is even the kids that aren't involved necessarily on a team, but who are involved in running the video scoreboard, or they're working on the broadcast side, or they're doing other things, we found a cool way to keep them involved. And I told the story to my kids, so I hope you'll indulge me this last thing. Dan Dickerson, the Tigers baseball announcer, I heard him speak to a group of kids years ago, and he told a great story. He said when he was in high school, he thought he wanted to be a professional baseball player, but realized pretty quickly he wasn't going to be good enough to be a professional baseball player. He was a marginal high school player. But his high school coach had a connection with the Tigers and got him a job in the summertime being a bat boy for the Tigers. And he had this awesome experience, gets to be in the clubhouse, he's around the players, did that for 2 summers. And then one summer, the second summer, he's talking to a guy who worked in the ticket booth and said, hey, you ought to come up here and work in the ticket booth. We could pay you and you could make some money. And so he goes up and he works in the ticket booth. While he's up there, he had opportunity with the VP of ticketing to introduce him to Ernie Harwell, who was a legendary radio broadcaster for the Tigers. He introduces him to Ernie Harwell, and Ernie Harwell says, you should come sit up in the booth with me. And he goes up and he gets to sit up there where Ernie Harwell broadcasts a game. And he's like, I decided right then and there, I'm going to be a baseball announcer. He went to school, became a radio broadcaster, ended up getting a job with the Tigers, working his way back up through the organization. And now he's, the voice of Tiger baseball, and he can go to every game home and away. And his message to the kids was that no matter what you love to do, you can figure out a way to make a living at it. So he loved baseball. He wasn't going to be good enough to be a player, but he figured out a way to make baseball his life. And so I've told my own kids that. I'd love to tell our kids that. Whatever you love to do, even if you don't have a natural ability in that area, you can find a way to be around it your whole life if you want to. And I think that's a cool thing that we offer at West Ottawa.
Tim Bearden, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for sharing your experience as an athlete and a coach and a dad, and now your perspective as our superintendent. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. I know the calendar is busy.
Hey, this was awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Remember, everybody, we are West Ottawa. We are community. We are each other. And take care. We'll see you next time.
If you have enjoyed listening to the 29-1 podcast, be sure to like and subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.